This is super exciting. Anytime I have a GitHub integration, I always want to cover it in Fabric threads. And now that we can integrate GitHub with our real-time dashboards, you can handle all of your CI/CD processes and your version control for your real-time dashboards.
Welcome back to our latest episode of Fabric Threads, where we discuss the latest and greatest Microsoft Fabric updates and how it can really help you with your business challenges. I'm joined with Dennis, my co-host, to discuss the latest October feature updates. How are we looking for this month, Dennis?
I'm super excited for this month's update. I follow the Fabric development team on LinkedIn, and they've been posting some really great features.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of great buzz coming out of this month. Why don't we hop right into that?
Let's do it.
So Dennis, the first feature I would love for us to discuss is the new enhanced Power BI report creation with Copilot, which is now released to public preview. Tell us a little bit more about this feature and why we should be excited.
So creating reports with Copilot has always been a feature ever since they released Copilot for Power BI. But what this feature is, it's an enhancement so you can actually have a conversation with Copilot to really extract those more deep insights for your report.
That sounds like a really handy feature. Tell me more.
Yeah, so what you're actually able to do with Copilot now is ask it questions, but Copilot will then go analyze your semantic model to suggest measures, calculations, columns, to be able to use that when it creates the report for you. So it's a little bit more conversational.
And what about specific roles within an organization that you see really benefiting from this feature?
I think any user within an organization will really benefit from this. Not just your Power BI developers or your users already in Power BI, but people who are not familiar with it that really still want to extract those insights. They'll be able to go in, ask the questions, have a conversation, and create that report.
That sounds really accessible in terms of how many folks will benefit here. But tell me, are there any limitations that we'd want to be aware of up front?
I would say the biggest limitation is Copilot's ability to handle complex semantic models and complex questions. It's really going to struggle with the combination of those.
Well, overall, it sounds fantastic. So one of the features that was getting a lot of buzz on LinkedIn and other forums for Fabric was real-time dashboard integration with GitHub. I'd love for you to tell me more.
I'm super excited about this feature. Like you said, I've been hearing about it on LinkedIn as well. And this is super exciting. Anytime I have a GitHub integration, I always want to cover it in Fabric threads. And now that we can integrate GitHub with our real-time dashboards, you can handle all of your CI/CD processes and your version control for your real-time dashboards.
And what impact do we think this can really make in businesses who start using this feature?
I think this is really going to impact your development team. So those users that are actually creating those real-time dashboards, because it's more than likely that they're using GitHub for version control and CI/CD with the other Fabric components that they're developing. And now you can bring your real-time dashboards into that fold.
Well, I love how agile that can really make our businesses and developers. But tell me, Dennis, did you happen to find any other pleasant surprises while investigating this feature?
I did. I was actually developing a demo the other day, and I was pretty ecstatic with how easy it was to configure the GitHub integration. You normally find that GitHub integrations can be a little bit complex to set up, but this was very straightforward.
How about we move on to talking about the new list slicer that's now released in preview? What do we mean by slicer, and how does this list slicer work exactly?
So a slicer is just a filter. So it's actually a visual within Power BI. And so previously you had the standard slicer visual that's been part of Power BI visuals pretty much since Power BI was released. And now with this new update, it's actually a brand new slicer visual that allows you to embed images. You can add additional columns outside of just adding your standard column into the slicer. So you get a lot more options.
Great. People love options. What about the real impact to businesses? What do we think this will do?
Your Power BI developers, they're really going to benefit from this because now they have more options when we talk about filters within a Power BI report. So you don't just use columns, you can use numbers, you can use images, so they'll have a lot more flexibility.
Great. Does sound like a really dynamic tool for easy and dynamic filtering. How about any misconceptions that we should know about this update?
I would say you can't use every single data type as a field within the slicer, so you will be a little bit limited, but for sure, any type of lists, columns, images, you'll be able to use that as a value within the slicer.
Moving on, now let's talk about Notebook Git integration and deployment pipelines that's now generally available. Tell me more about this feature at a high level.
Whenever we have a Git integration feature, I always like to cover it in Fabric threads. And now that we can enable notebooks with Git integration, it becomes that much more of a tool for your developers within your organization.
And what does that mean for their development?
It means that now you can handle all of your version control, CI/CD within your notebooks directly within Git and GitHub. And so you're able to capture all of those processes just as you are likely with other Fabric components.
And who do we think will really start using this feature?
I think this is really going to be more towards the developer community that need the version control, need the CI/CD processes for their development pipeline.
And are we talking about using this to replace our full CI/CD pipeline?
It's more of an enhancement. It's an addition. So now you can integrate notebooks directly with that integration.
Very cool. If I was a person who wanted to really have a better handle on their Lakehouse objects and abilities such as filters, sorting, and searching, do you have good news for me this month?
I do, and I'm glad you asked. Microsoft just released the ability to search and sort your Fabric Lakehouse. But what does that really mean? So Lakehouses can have multiple tables, they can have multiple files, everything stored into one schema. You can even create new schemas, but all of that is in one little search bar. And so now what you can do is go in, you can sort that search, you can search inside of there, and you can come up with exactly the files or the tables that you're looking for. In some of our implementations, we have hundreds of tables, thousands of files that gather up in your Lakehouse. So it is very difficult to go and find what you're looking for.
Well, that sounds like a real time saver, is it?
It really is, especially when you have that many tables, that many files within your Lakehouse. The ability to search it or sort it to find what you're looking for is super important.
So folks with messy Lakehouses can really benefit from this, huh?
Exactly. They could also benefit from the feature last month where they can create custom schemas.
Is there anything else we should keep in mind about this feature?
I would say the biggest thing is that, even with this feature, you still want to make sure that all of your Lakehouse objects are sorted properly, they're stored properly directly within your schemas. So this doesn't negate the need for that. You still need to have all of your schemas in place, and then that'll make your search and your sort that much more efficient.
And is this limited to certain Lakehouse types, or can we think about it as having more implications?
I think this is for Lakehouses now, but I do imagine that they're going to release this for your warehouses as well.
Well, Dennis, I really like the collection of feature updates for October. A lot of great time savers, a lot of new innovation that's kind of continuing to grow out of Fabric features that were previously introduced. How about you? How are you feeling about this month's edition?
I'm feeling great, and it definitely seems that the Fabric development team is taking into consideration the end users, and that's what's really important to enable self-service analytics to really gain adoption of Fabric. That's the user base that you need to focus on with these features.
That makes a lot of sense. And I want to thank all of the folks out there who have been following along on each episode of Fabric Threads. Or if you're new, welcome to our channel. Please take the time to comment or like and let us know what you might want to hear in the future editions.